All right.
I was hoping you wouldn't think of that.
Yep.
Yeah, he's the Murphy guy.
Welcome. We'll call the Benton County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Before we start, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have a moment of silence for Todd Mastey and his family. Thank you. Please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Roll call, please.
Sure. Commissioner Schlangen? Here. Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Heinen?
Here.
Commissioner Kapinski?
Here.
Commissioner Pop?
Here.
Approve or amend the agenda. Monty,
We have no changes.
were we gonna move Mr. Anderson up?
I think you could just do that
Okay.
when it happens, right, yeah.
Yep.
Kind of depending on where we're at with things, yeah.
Here, I'll move to approve the agendas.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion about the agenda? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes, thank you. County board meetings are broadcasted live and video recorded on YouTube. Please refrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that viewers can hear you. County board observes Robert's Rules of Orders for its meetings, so please obtain the board's chair's consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for the open forum segment or public hearings, however. Public comment, any other agenda item may be allowed at the discretion of the board chair. As we begin today, please turn off your cell phones and or put them on vibrate. Thank you. Mr. Pop, your phone on vibrate? Thank you. At this point in time, open forum. Is there anybody out in the audience that would like to approach the board? I know, Tom, you're on the list. Go ahead, Mr. Half.
Hi, my name is Tom Half. I'm from the Sauk Rapids area, Benton County. I just came to talk a little bit about the property tax increases and stuff like that, value increases. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that with inflation on the way it is, our property values are going up, but we're looking at double-digit inflation here, I'm sure, in the near future, and I hope that they take that into consideration. In the future, if you look at these numbers, we're probably looking at a pretty good recession in the next couple of years, and I hope that the county assessors and the state also takes a look at that, numbers that these are probably inflated, and that hopefully they will adjust accordingly in that time. I like my property to be worth more, don't get me wrong. I do, but I don't like to pay any more taxes than anybody else, and I'd rather see an evaluation that focuses on reality instead of just what's going on in the market and stuff like that. So that's on that point, I'd just like to say that that's about all I have to say on that. One other thing I had going on was in the city of Sauk Rapids. I noticed in February 26th, Sauk Rapids Herald, the school board and the city of Sauk Rapids are getting in bed together, and they had a big page going, "We're better together." And oh my gosh, I just about wanted, when I seen it in the paper, I thought I was gonna puke. It just made me so disgusted. Steve knows this very well. I've came to that meetings hundreds of times, and voice my opinion about referendums and things like that. And the city always told me, we have nothing to do with the school, we have nothing to do with it. Well, now they're jumping in bed with a really bad bunch of people there that we can never give them enough money. You keep giving them more money and more money. Jesse Ventura said it the best. I looked this up. He says, I'll give you some money if you can show me a reason. He says, but I'm not gonna throw money down a dirt hole, no, down a gopher hole. All they want, more and more money, more and more money. Robin Holtall said it the best at the school board, at that meeting. She says that, we need to contact our realtors and representatives to get more people to come to our town. What a bright bulb in the school board. Wow. Economics, man, 101, she's got her down. So, but I just want to say that's so disgusting. I think those entities should stay separate from each other and they can work together. So I just wanted to say thank you for your time and stuff like that, and have a very nice day. So.
Wow, Tom, thank you for
Thank
keeping your elevated speech down a little bit. I appreciate that. Have a good day, sir. Anybody else out there? Okay, with that, we'll move forward to the consent agenda item. What we would like to do with 1 through 10.
Move for approval, Mr. Chair, on items 1 through 10.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda is approved. At this time, we'll recess the regular board meeting to conduct an Economic Development Authority meeting. Monty, you want to help me out on this?
Yeah,
one?
sure, Mr. Chair,
Thank
this
you.
is the first EDA meeting of the year, and we'd like to ask you to amend the agenda to first select a chair and vice chair for 2022, if you could. So typically, again, the board chair and vice chair have also been chair and vice chair of EDA, Ditch Authority, and so on, so that might be the recommendation there.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we appoint the board chair and the vice chair. In this case, it'd be Commissioner Heinen, Commissioner Johnson to be the EDA chair and vice chair for 2022.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that one? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Approved. Thank you, Monty, for that help. Approve or amend, I'm sorry. So did we approve and amend the agenda already?
So we just amended it to do
Okay, we
the,
just amended it for that. Okay, so we'll move forward. We'll approve and amend the minutes, December 28th, 2021 meeting.
so moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that one? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved. 5, consider a loan agreement with LBT Concrete. Amanda, thank you for joining us this morning.
Oh, it's nice to
morning.
see you guys this
Morning.
morning. Thank you. Chair and County Board, I have a microloan request in front of you this morning for LBT Concrete. They are pursuing the purchase of Southside Sand and Gravel in the interest of expanding and growing their company. LBT Concrete will be operating out of the Southside Sand and Gravel location at 7995 Acorn Road in Royalton, and that is located in Benton County. They are offering similar type of services, so it makes sense for them to acquire this business in Benton County. They are proposing to create 15 new jobs and retain 6 full-time positions with an average hourly wage between all of them of $24.20 an hour. Job retention and job creation, of course, are considered under the county's policy, their microloan policy, as the eligible uses of those funds. And absent the business subsidy, the job loss we've identified would be specific and demonstratable. So that's also included in the policy, that if those job losses are specific and demonstratable, that we can utilize those microloan funds to help fund an acquisition like this. So our loan committee met a couple times on this particular project, and they ultimately recommended approval of a $81,500 microloan. This is in the form of gap financing to help assist the financing and the purchase of Southside Sand and Gravel. This loan, this $81,500 loan would be amortized over 10 years, 5-year balloon, like all of our other ones, and then at a rate of 4.7%. The applicant, of course, is responsible for all the legal fees, all of the application fees, all of that stuff. So that is not paid from the county taxpayers. It's just strictly from the applicant themselves. So with this microloan request, right now our fund account balance is roughly $422,914.33. As of 2/28, I don't have the updated report for March yet, but as of 2/28, it's just over 422,000, so this would draw on that. So after, if the county board recommends approval of this loan, it would draw down our request, or our fund account to $341,414 approximately. This would add additional revenue of $35,000, just over $35,000, $36,000 into our fund account over the course of those 5 years. And so I'm looking for a motion from the EDA on the approval of the loan documents, the promissory note, security agreement, personal guarantee, and the resolution to execute those documents. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Amanda, so did you take into consideration the a loan agreement we did with Jensen Trucking? Is that included in this number or not?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, that is,
22?
yep, absolutely, yep,
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
yep.
Do you need these motions taken individually, or?
No, actually, the resolution would cover all of those documents. So all I need from you this morning is to approve the resolution in front of you.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution with LBT Concrete.
Okay. I'll second that. And Commissioner Kapinski, if I could amend that, maybe I'll throw in a few or numbers.
Yeah, 81,
Okay.
yeah, so,
So approving an $81,500 microplan for LBT Concrete with a 10-year amortization, 5-year balloon, 4.7 interest, and authorized execution of the loan documents that have been provided by the county administrator. That work?
Thank you.
thank you for that
Perfect.
clarification. I didn't have the
Couldn't have
exact
said it better
numbers in front of me.
myself.
Motion makers okay with that?
Yeah, I am very good with that, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Pop.
So, Amanda, maybe we want to explain a little bit. If you look at it, this was what the loan committee, there's 6 full-time and creating 15 existing, employees. That has to do with another company that they're tied to. They all won't be created at this purchase.
Yep.
So, and on the half of the loan committee, they vented this very well. We had a couple of meetings on this because on the first go around, we didn't like some of the things and that, and I know Amanda's worked really hard to get this to where it is today. So I think it's just the way we do business, and it's a good idea.
And Commissioner, excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, sir.
And I just want to say too, this is gap financing like you mentioned.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's, okay, thank you.
Great, so we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's approved. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much,
so much.
Amanda.
Thank you.
With that, I will adjourn the EDA meeting and reconvene our regular board meeting. Next up, Nadine, Auditor Treasurer, approve Vega 3 election equipment grant. Thank you for joining us.
Morning.
Good
morning.
Morning.
Little visual.
That's too big for an airplane.
Yeah,
Maybe overweight.
we're not gonna, wheel that around for you either right now.
You're not?
No,
You don't want to hurt your back?
or my shoulder.
All right, so good morning. I have asked township election clerks to be present today. I see we have Christine Sherbane here with St. George. looking for some support to hopefully replace these old auto marks. So with that, if you recall, back in December, I came before the board to ask for the authority to submit the VEGA grant number 3, which is the voting equipment grant account. At that time, you gave me permission to submit that application for that grant. Back then, we weren't anticipating to receive what we did receive. I was actually expecting a little lower award, so surprisingly, the county was awarded just over $37,000 for that grant. Now, this grant can only be used for election equipment. So as of today's date, and over the past probably about 3 years, we have received grant monies from the state, the VEGA number 1 and number 2, which was also utilized to purchase and replace older voting equipment that the county had. So catching us up to speed of where we're at today, we have one piece of equipment yet to replace, which is the assisted voting device that is sitting in front of you in that case. These auto marks were purchased in May of 2006, so they are actually 16 years old, going on 16 years old here next month. We were awarded, as I said, that $37,000 grant money to replace any other equipment that we need to replace. This is the last thing that we need to replace. If we choose not to utilize that grant money, I do have to send that money back to the state by the end of the month. So there is in your packet, I included the new assisted voting device that is available for the county to purchase. This Omni ballot tablet, which would replace this existing AutoMark, has been approved by the state. This is the only option at this time as far as assisted voting devices go. We are required, the state does require in statute that all precincts have a assisted voting device during those state and state elections. So it is a requirement that we have to have them. The precincts have to have them. I had attached in your packet a quote that we received of what it would cost to replace the 28 assisted voting devices that we currently have. Now, keep in mind that these were purchased before the last redistricting in 2012. So before that time, we had more precincts, and hence why we have 28 of these on hand now. Currently, we have 22 precincts that we would need to provide assisted voting devices for. In that quote in your packet from Sea Change, we are asking if we were to replace these, we would like 2 additional spares to have on hand. So a total of 24 is what we're looking for. Sea Change has contracted with MCCC to get us a better rate on replacing that equipment. So you're looking at approximately $101,600 for us to purchase 24 new assisted voting devices here at the county. With that said, we have about just over $37,000. The county would need to contribute about $65,000 in order for us to get new assisted voting devices. Questions on the old equipment or new equipment for me, or?
The question I have, Nadine, would be probably to Monty, where are we gonna come up with that $65,000? Yes, Monty.
I need some time to get back to you.
Any ideas, Nadine?
Well, this is, no, that Monty handles the, county accounts, so he would be better, directed to answer that question, but, this is, similar to what has happened in the past. We, get information from the state that they're bringing a grant forward. It's always, it can be at any time in the year, so it's really impossible for us to be budgeting for money that we would need for equipment, election equipment during the year, because these grant monies come up at different times during the year. Now, so with that said, I mean, if we had known that we were gonna have $37,000 last July, August, when we come to you with our budget items, I would have most certainly included this in that we would need that additional $65,000 to purchase and replace this equipment. So that's just kind of the position that we're in. We don't know when those monies are coming from the state to us. Do I anticipate more money could come? Maybe. I can't predict that. I just know that we were awarded $37,000. If we choose not to utilize it, we do need to send the full $37,000 back to the state.
Mr. Gopinski. Commissioner, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I'm not in favor of sending any money back to the state, to be quite honest, because we need these. Is this a county-provided deal, or is there some ownership from the townships? Because I'm looking at it, maybe if we could utilize, out of each township, 1,500 of the ARPA money, and the county figures out the rest, or something like that, kind of make a partnership deal. Sending the money back, I don't believe is from my side, an option.
So, the county actually owns all of the election equipment that it currently has. And we do bill those precincts back for the maintenance and software updates annually for the equipment. So currently, this machine here, the precincts are sending back, we invoice them $177.50 annually for the maintenance and software of that equipment sitting before you. With the purchase of the new Omni ballots, if we were to go that direction, their cost would increase by $47.50. So we're looking at $225 versus the $177.50 that they're currently paying. So approximately $50 more dollars for them out of pocket a year to get new equipment. As you can see, heavy, bulky, very difficult for the clerks to lift and maneuver this equipment. A lot of times they're pulling this equipment across their gravel township. We've had to literally take the wheels off these cases and get rocks and mud out of them. We did this recently with the township elections because the wheels weren't turning. This is big, bulky equipment. And if you want to get some feedback from someone that actually utilizes it during the elections, I would invite Christine to come up and say a few words if she wants.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
I guess from a clerk point of view, I'm probably one of the youngest clerks on all of the township. These boxes are extremely cumbersome. They're damaging to our vehicles because typically we're the only ones loading them, and I know I can't just lift it up, and so I have to lean it against the vehicle, push it in. So, I mean, I'm 100% for this. These are from prehistoric times, and they need to be updated.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Nadine, would it be reasonable to say that, I think I heard you say that you're billing out the townships, the maintenance, and that's gonna go to $225. So that $5,400 a year really is coming back. Would that be reasonable to say? I mean, because the $225 is included in there, which some of those dollars are coming back to us, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, so, they would be invoiced annually, the $225 for the life of those Omni ballots that we would get.
For all
Yep.
22 precincts.
For the 22 precincts, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Pop?
So the 22 precincts also include the cities
Correct.
precincts, as you were.
Yes.
Yep.
Coincidentally, last time we had a meeting here, and when they had the township deal, and I helped two clerks take theirs out to the car, and one was the Langola clerk, and she's, up there nearing retirement, and I agree with them. It's, even, the Mayo Lake one was, had a hard time getting it in there. He said, I'll get it, but he didn't want to ask for help, so, I think it's just something we have to do. We have to move forward with this.
And, the expected shelf life on this equipment was 10 to 12 years, and we are sitting at 16 years, and technology has changed a lot in 16 years. The new devices will be a lot easier for the clerks to transport. They're easier to use. They're gonna process that ballot faster. The new device actually prints a ballot-sized ballot after the assisted voter uses it, and then they are able to take that ballot and place it right into the ballot box themselves. So the new device has a lot of extra benefits that these 16-year-old automarks do not have. So I know, and again, I wish we could have built the money into the budget, but it's all timing of when the state comes at us with those monies, so.
Commissioner Gopinski?
Nadine, what is the shelf life on the new ones?
About 10 years, especially with that technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, as you saw in your packet, it's basically a poll pad, touchscreen, easy to use poll pad. So it's, I should have brought one of the poll pad cases. So if you've seen those bright green cases, those are very easy for them to transport. This product that we're looking at, wanting to purchase will come with a printer. And the case will hold both their pad and their printer for easy transport, so.
Commissioner Johnson?
Mr. Chair, may it make sense, or maybe the question for Nadine, so we're April 5th today. Would it make sense to table this to the next board meeting to have the county administrator present to us where these funds may come from?
How much time frame do we have, Nadine?
I need to report back to the state by the 29th of April, whether we're gonna utilize the funds. If not, they need to be sent back by then.
So if we dealt with this on the 19th, would be plenty of time to,
I guess the hardest thing is I agree we need it. It's the $65,000 that we weren't never aware of. And how do we find that, take that out of our budget when we've already got a budget? Commissioner Pop?
Well, I think that it's needed, and I think by statute, we're
Required to provide them.
to provide them, so
Correct.
Yep.
I guess we don't, and I don't wanna send the $65 or the $37,000 back. And maybe some counties will look at it that way, and there'll be more money available going down the pipe here, so.
Yeah, I think that the expectation, of expecting that state would come forward and provide enough money to replace the election equipment without the county having to kick in some, I think that would be a pretty high expectation.
Yeah, I
So,
It's just one of our duties.
Mr. Chair, I think in the future, we should, if we got a 10-year life expectancy, we gotta start building a budget for this on a yearly,
Yeah.
so we're putting away $3,000 or $4,000 every.
yep, so, and you may not recall, but last time we had budget, I had talked a little bit about increasing the election budget every year. We keep that money in a restricted account, it's only for election stuff. And at that time, there was no interest to do that. So as we move forward into budget time again, I'm gonna come to the board again with a proposal of what we would expect equipment would cost 10 years from now, and that we increase that budget so that we have more funds or have the funds available 10 years down the road when this equipment becomes obsolete.
So just for clarification, this budget process starts with you. not with us. It's for you to bring it in front of us.
Yes, and I did bring,
For
I did bring
clarification.
this forward to you last fall, wanting to increase the election budget at that time, and, there was no interest in it at that time.
And I just cannot remember back then,
Right,
so I'm sorry.
yep, nope,
But
nope.
still.
It's a
still,
good
it
point,
starts-
but it was
starts
brought
with you.
forward.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just a thought. We could always replace a budget next year if we had to pull it from this year, correct? Cause what I'm looking at is, don't we got some money in the tax CAMA fund to replace that? That might be held off a year now?
Can I get back to you at the
Yep.
next meeting?
Yep. Absolutely.
Mr. Chair, with that, I'm gonna make a motion to table it to April 19th meeting.
I'll second
to
that.
Allow the county administrator to come back with some dollars.
Okay, got a motion to table it.
Mr. Chair, I have one
Got a
more
question?
question to ask. With customer site for their training days, would you be able to train them to help to decrease some of that cost? Or is that per site that they want, or did they want to do
No,
it, or can you
we,
do it?
yep. Oh, you're looking at the quote from
Correct.
Sea Change?
Yep.
We did not elect to put that in our budget. We do not need to incur that cost. We put the very bare minimum in that of what we have to purchase. There's a lot of optional things that can be purchased. We did not include those in that quote when we got it from Sea Change. So the training was a no. We'll do our own in-house training, so we don't need to have that additional expense.
Sounds good.
Right.
Okay, any further questions about this?
Mr. Chair, just to reiterate, I am in 100% favor of keeping the money. We just gotta find out where we're gonna get the other money.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we got a motion, a second to table to the next board meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next,
Nobody wants to wheel it back?
You can leave it there for a prop.
Yeah.
you could, yeah, okay. Next, Troy Heck, the sheriff, but I can see we have not Troy in front of us, though. Neil, you're taking this one over?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
So we are here today to request approval of a proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Benton County. I have with me today Lieutenant Julie Fraley. She is our first line supervisor for our records division and also the Public Safety Telecommunicators division in our office. So this year, April 10th through the 16th is designated National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. This designation honors the men and women of our nation's dispatch centers who are the first point of contact for people seeking help from fire, EMS, or law enforcement. Public safety dispatchers in Benton County and all over this country do a difficult job that requires them to be ready to handle anyone on their worst day in a calm and professional manner. They must quickly get to the root of the caller's problem and determine how to best address the issue. They must multitask, direct, comfort, and console on a 24/7, 365 basis. Each day they take on the stress unique to a person who must hear and visualize some truly horrible incidents while knowing their only response is to start help, wait, and listen to the scenario unfold. Their job is truly not for the faint of heart, and we are fortunate to have a talented and dedicated group of professionals doing this job in Benton County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'll start if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Being on a fire department, I work with the dispatch pretty regularly, and I completely appreciate what they do. They're put in some tough situations daily, and as we talk about, the pay is not real good for what you guys deal with. So I for one, thank you for what you guys do.
It's very well appreciated.
For sure.
So at this time, I'll make a motion for the board to recognize the men and women of Benton County Dispatch Center and direct the chair to sign the Proclamation.
I'll second that.
Sorry.
I'll second.
In a moment. Any further discussion on this item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Great day, thank you.
Next, Robert Cornelius, Human Service Director. Really? More paper, Bob?
You know, one of the nice things about writing well is it guides me because I write better than I speak sometimes, so. Let's look at this corner
Thank you,
here.
it gets sticky, doesn't it?
Alrighty. I want to start out by saying that I would ask for reconsideration for two different positions here. And I will start out by saying that the comp class study was by all accounts a success. Most positions saw an increase and most employees were happy with the grade assignments and compensation. There was one HS position that seemed to miss, so it's prompting me to ask for a review, and that's the fiscal services or fiscal supervisor position. And I have some reasons here why I ask for this. First one is, what is the difference of the grading rubric between the two vendors that resulted in the decrease? The main criteria for submitting a job description for review was, what has changed? I have not submitted a position review since 2014 because the previous process was stable. It was easy to see changes in a position. However, this position did not change, but the whole process itself and the vendor changed, resulting in a significant decrease. So this is why the process is in place. The vendor's goal is to, for every job is come back with a perfect process. And what I'm suggesting here is, I feel like this is a situation where it seems amiss, and I would like to ask that we take a second look at this. The department head submits a request to the board to review a position that appears to need review. That's what this is. The third item is that all other equally graded supervisor positions retain the same grade. This position was a grade 13 in the past process. While all the other similarly graded supervisors remained a 13, this one was decreased to 11, and the position is now frozen. This is one of only two supervisor positions countywide to take such a decrease. The fourth one is the importance and complexity of this approximate $15 million budget. As I've explained before, there's 65 some programs, 21 pages of budgets, budget line items, and this position assumes liability and accountability to ensure that human services stays on track while also minimizing the liability to the county board, the department, and the taxpayers. Please note number 5. And number 6 is whatever the board decides on this and whatever it comes back in, say it stands. And at that point in time, we were done talking about it. So that's the first position I'd like to have reviewed. And you do have much more information in the board packet as to some of the details. Any questions on this one?
Do we want to take each one separate, right, Monty? That'd be the
would
best
say.
case.
Yes, yeah.
Board,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Gabinski.
this might be a question for either Monty or Johanna. What does it cost again to have this relooked at?
$150 or $200.
Yeah, about $200, yeah.
Okay.
For Tessa to review it.
Okay.
What would board like to do with this?
Mr. Chair, I truly believe that we could send this, for a couple $100 per position, to send this back to David Drone and have him reassess it. And if it comes back the same, I trust what they did in our class and comp study. It was a long process in that. But if it is, needs to be looked at and the employees think it does and Bob seems, thinks it does, I would be in favor of that.
Is that a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Monty, you have anything to add to this?
Well, it certainly could be upgraded, and you can't, of course, anticipate these in the budget.
Right,
We could, of course, plan for it in the '23 budget.
right.
As Bob stated, it's a $15 million budget, so most likely, if it's upgraded, it could be absorbed. As you got turnover and things like that, the way the policy works, if it is upgraded, any change would be retroactive to today.
Okay, so we did get some clarification on that then. Any other questions about this one? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Okay, so we'll bring this to them.
Alrighty. Second is the reconsideration of the child support officer position. One of the recommendations of the 2018 Human Services Report by Resource Training and Solutions and has not been implemented is creating a lead or a senior child support officer position. As a result, the child support officers who have made multiple requests to have their position reevaluated, and what they're hoping is to create a senior position. And I think the root of the situation is that the CSOs were not included in the HS units for senior position approval that administration submitted to the board. And one of the things that they did was they sent, and I think that you guys have probably gotten a copy of this as well. The first paragraph of their request was that, please know that we are not appealing the current child support officer classification. Our request is to seek board approval of the child support officer senior. These duties performed by the most experienced child support officers is senior level work. In talking with Monty back and forth about this, there hasn't been no position developed with DDA regarding a senior or a lead in this unit. So the first question would be whether or not the board would approve the DDA looking at these positions, and Monty had suggested each one of them would resubmit their job description to see if there's a distinction between the highest level and the lowest level the highest experience and the lowest experience, to see if there is indeed a reason for either a lead or the senior position. So if we did get a board approval to submit that to DDA, then at that point in time, they would decide whether or not a lead or a senior. And at that point in time, we would come back to the board and it would be up to the board to decide whether or not that would be approved.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Johnson.
Bob, would it be the point of also reflecting number 6, that whatever the position is reevaluated, it would stand? So if this was to be approved to go back for reconsideration and it came back, whatever the answer was that came back,
That is correct.
that it would stand?
That is correct. I believe that's all they were asking for, is to have it redetermined, so.
Okay, Mr. Pop, you got something to add?
No, not right now.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Gopinski?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just going around
Would
the
this,
table here.
no problem. Monty, would this be the $200 or whatever it is times however many people, or is this just one position that we'd be charged?
Just one charge.
Just one?
Charge.
Okay.
Job title, job classification.
So then we would be charged for the previous one and this one then too separately, correct?
Go ahead. Finish your thought, please, and I'll.
Okay. Well, with that, I would make a motion to have this relooked at again, knowing that whatever it comes back at would be the standing obligation of the board.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion, Monty.
Well, I think the idea of creating a senior is, in my opinion, a policy decision that the board makes. In other words, this isn't like the one you just considered before, where Bob says, there was some flaw in the analysis and so on and so forth. There was a very deliberate decision back during the class comp study to create a couple of senior classifications in human services, and I would urge significant caution about, at this point, creating additional ones. And please consider the countywide implications in view of that. So in other words, if you're someone who sits in across the street and you believe, your position should be senior, there should be a senior counterpart. I think it does create expectation that this would be considered elsewhere. And I think it has a large impact upon your payroll costs, just to be blunt. I think those senior positions were created in human services for a couple of reasons. It was to reward longevity and also address turnover. And I think it was done in a very limited way. So again, I just would urge a lot of caution about creating additional senior positions here and now through this process. I think it's better to look at it on a county-wide basis through a class comp study rather than one by one. My thought in this instance, perhaps a lead might be the most appropriate solution here. You've got a unit, I think it's like 9 or 10 folks. So maybe one lead would be appropriate. A little bit of history. So several years ago with the eligibility units, because those were getting really large, the units were split into two, and then each one got a lead position. So that position was kind of like the lead trainer, educator, so to speak. That might be appropriate with this unit as having one lead to be that senior kind of lead trainer position. But I would recommend that we not go down the senior route at this point, at least not here and not this way.
I will need help with this. So I remember they had 2 appeal processes, and I believe, or 3 appeal process, thank you. And even Tessa.
2, right, yeah.
Stated there was no need, or she thought there was no need of a senior position in this one. Was that correct, Johanna? Or was it more of a lead?
At the time, the determination was is that she was only addressing approved positions that were in place or
Okay.
that the board approved already. So Tessa and DDA felt that they were not in the position to add new classifications during our common class
Right.
study. In the job description, there was an addendum created through the appeal process that did identify some additional duties that more senior people may have the responsibilities for.
So if we bring this back to them, will they bring a recommendation to us of whether it be a senior or a lead, or is this something that will fall just on the board?
Again, I think this is a decision for the board to make. In other words, you could give direction to Tessa what you're looking for.
Okay.
In other words, if you say, look, we think it's appropriate that we create a lead position, then she could work on creating a job description that defines a lead position. I wouldn't necessarily leave it to chance, whatever. I would give firm direction to Tessa as to what you're looking for. Because I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think this isn't your consultant telling you, you're gonna have a senior or a lead. It's you as a board making a policy decision. This is what we want for the county. In other words, where we want senior positions. If in fact the board wants more senior positions, I would urge taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture of all departments and really asking, where might this make the most sense? Where can you distinguish an entry-level position from a senior position? Again, on a county-wide basis, because what you do today certainly is observed by employees in other departments in other areas who might assert, I should be senior too. So.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Pop.
I agree with Monty on some things. I don't know if we're gonna go down that road that we would want to influence Tessa or DDA on which route we wanna go. I think their expertise in what they do, and I would assume they'd look at the whole picture to say, we have this many employees, in this division, and it merits a senior or a lead. I guess I wouldn't want I would not be interested in suggesting which way we go, because that puts us in a position to do it down the road. If they come back and say it merits a senior position, and we don't have to go there every time somebody comes before us for a lead or a senior position. I mean, it was presented to us many times in the past on these, so, I don't know, it's a tough call because I can see the domino effect, going forward. But ultimately, we have the upper hand in this on whether we do it or not.
Right, they're just gonna give us, we're just looking for a recommendation,
Right.
you know, of what they're looking at, of all the information they're looking at.
Correct. And I think I would give the Bob and the employees some kind of a vote of confidence that they're going this route and looking at it. They just didn't come to us and say, we want a senior position. I mean, they did some work on merit and on how it's gonna be, so I guess I would still be interested in, or in support of letting DDA look at it and see what they have. I trust those people. I mean, we trusted them in the past, and, you know, we had other people that, when Commissioner Heinen and I sat there, through the last summer when we were gonna implement, we had a lot of people that were not what you'd call really happy with how it turned out, but in all, we got there and we did that.
Commissioner Johnson.
Chair, so just for clarification again, so I'll make sure I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Pop. So if we give direction to Tessa and her group to bring back a recommendation for a lead or senior or no change,
Correct.
that recommendation comes back, we decide yay, nay, and that's the end of it.
Yep.
That's the point I'm trying to get to again. So the recommendation comes back, there's a decision made, and that's the end of it.
Yep.
I wouldn't bring anything forward past that point.
Commissioner Schlangen.
Can we be looking at a big picture as to, who's gonna be responsible to help with this area? Does it have to be part of that smaller group, or can it be somebody that's in leadership above that can be able to oversee that?
We do have, the supervisor must approve it, and then I must approve it before it gets submitted.
Right.
So, and typically, the supervisor does help with that.
Which is a spot we're in today, you're bringing it forth.
Right, yeah, and that's why he's here.
So could that supervisor help out with that position, or do they think that they need
He's been
an
involved
extra one?
extensively already in helping to create or
Okay, so
craft
it
this.
sounds like that one might be the one that would be in the position to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, Bob has given us all the information on this. And Tessa, they would go ahead and send out another form for them to fill out, right, Johanna? To explain why?
Yes, they would get blank position analysis questionnaires. They would all fill them out that hold that current classification. And then they would be sent to Tessa, and more than likely there'd be a meeting to.
Just like the other two appeal processes. Go ahead, Commissioner Pop.
Joanna, would they also look at other counties that we had in the class and comp study? I mean,
You mean like the design of how
Yeah.
their work?
or would it just be our county? You know,
I mean, there's all, in the classification, the compensation side of it, there's market analysis.
Right.
But, if we ask them to look at the design of other counties and that area,
yeah.
she would if we asked her to, yes,
Okay.
through the, classification part to decide, do other counties have leads or do they have
Senior
seniors and what are the
position.
duties?
is that something that we could specifically require which counties?
Well, they have the list of
They have the
counties
list
that
that
we
we-
did.
We have our
And we
comparative
have to-
counties, so
Yeah,
typically she
so
would.
I'm okay with that.
We would have to stay with those number of counties,
Yeah.
those same counties. We can't differ from
No,
any
right,
other county.
But we do have the list of counties that we used. Okay.
At the end of the day, I think, for $200, we send it back, and I agree with Commissioner Pop, don't give them direction, let them come back to us and tell us what their thoughts are. Sounds like they've already did it a couple times, let's just have
They
them
have.
take another look at it. And then it still ultimately, it comes back to us at the end.
At the end of the day, it does.
Well, and I'd like to comment too, and again, I appreciate Bob and staff that, that line item for me, we want to deal with this and we want to put it to bed
Yep,
for everybody.
yep.
So I'm happy to hear that and see that, so I think that's something we should move forward on.
Okay,
That said, I'll make a motion to send this back to.
I think I
but
already,
there already
Did already,
was,
sorry.
It's so long
So
ago.
far in the discussion.
mine still stands.
All right, who was the second?
you were,
Yeah, actually,
was that right?
yeah.
I think it was Pop.
Kapinski and Pop.
Yeah.
Pop, okay, I apologize for that,
I'm not the only one missing a cake.
you know. Uh,
Maybe we should send your position to David Drode, huh?
Yeah, really? You probably should.
Okay, so the mission was, really? Wow, okay.
I gotta have a little humor here.
So the motion was to bring it back and have them look at it.
Yep.
For this one too.
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to them.
Thank you.
And let
Thank
them, look at it. Okay, with that, I will, reconvene our regular board meeting and turn it over to our Human Services Board Chair.
All right, good morning. We'll call that board to order. Is there any additions to the agenda or changes?
I would like one update as far as the homeless grant we want to apply for.
Okay,
And that sheet of paper,
and read this in.
and
Okay.
read that too, please, sir.
All right, we have a letter here from the Minnesota Department of Human Services, so. Anything else?
No.
With that, I'll go ahead and motion to approve the agenda.
Okay,
I'll second.
in a second, all those in favor of the amended agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Consent agenda, one item on here are minutes from the March 15th, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to approve Human Services meeting minutes from March 15th. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. We'll move into, I'm going to read a letter here into the record from the Department of Human Services. This is for calendar year 2021 financial reporting. This is addressed to our board chair, Commissioner Heinen. It's my pleasure to commend you and your staff for perfect performance in meeting the Department of Human Services financial reporting requirements for the calendar year 2021. All key quarterly fiscal reports for programs your county participates in were submitted to our Financial Operations Division on or before the report deadlines and in perfect order. This effort required submission of 32 major reports covering the 4 calendar quarters of 2021. These reports are the Local Collaborative Time Study, MFIP Consolidated Fund, Client Statistics, SEAGR, Income Maintenance Expense, Social Service Fund, Title 4E, and Brass-Based Grant Fiscal Report. If your county participates in a local collaborative, submission of this report may require the collection of multiple local partners' reports for consolidated submission to DHS. I know this accomplishment requires planning and efficient operation and teamwork within your county Human Services Department. The result is timely revenue for your county in compliance with federal reporting for us at the state. Please congratulate your management and staff on this superb effort. Sincerely, Jody Harpstead, Commissioner of Human Services.
Thank
Don't
you.
look who was CC'd on that.
And CC, Bob Cornelius, yes.
Close.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you for reading that. That's the first time I've ever received that letter, Bob. Have we received any recognition like that in the past?
We have got, I suppose 3-4 years ago, they were maybe it's because they were working from home, but
Sure.
that's a reflection of Peggy's work and her team's work. So I think that's just another example of how important it is to get that stuff in on time and so forth, so.
So I thought it was important that you
Absolutely,
read that.
and it's.
She left before she could,
Yeah.
kudos.
Yeah, and to hear the word perfect in there a few times, that's
Yes.
quite an accomplishment, so thank you, Department. All right, do we want to move into your homeless grant update quick, or would you like to?
Sure.
Okay,
That'll give me a chance to sit down and drink some coffee.
there you go, sure.
Most importantly, the copy.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi. So I just thought I'd give you an update. Last fall, I believe, when we approved the homeless outreach worker, I said I was going to apply for a grant to cover the cost, and I did not. We were unsuccessful in that. But I did just submit another, we were awarded a $51,000 grant from the Community Adult Mental Health Initiative towards her position. And we just applied for a small $6,000 grant last week. I haven't heard back on that one. But I guess I'd like permission or to submit for a larger grant for her position that would cover the remaining parts of the cost for her salary and her fringe, as well as some additional money that would allow us to have some money for damage deposits, first month's rent, some utility hookups, that type of thing. So I'm not done writing it. I'm not the pro at writing grants, but it's going to be asking for a federal grant of about $150,000 from between July of this year till March of 2023. At which point of 2024, I mean, and then at that point, we can apply for another grant and try to get back in. So there is no match. We already approved the position. It really is just permission to apply for the grant, your yes, and the additional money, there's some other money coming in, so those things we don't normally have, like utility hookups and first month's deposit and those type of things.
All right, members, what are your wishes?
I make a motion to apply, thank you, for the grant.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to apply for that grant that Sandy described. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
All right, Bob, we'll move into your item here. A couple of
All right, I have two items. The first one is, we talked about this in the cow meeting last month, and that was sending two public health people and two school people on a SHIP-funded tobacco, my goodness.
It's that time of it, I mean,
Yes.
it's a day for all of us, apparently.
Yes, a SHIP-funded opportunity to go to the tobacco conference. And Mariah is on, so I don't know, Mariah, would you like to just give a little quick briefing on that?
Yeah, I can give a little bit of an update. I think we presented this information at the COW on March 7th. I think the only commissioner that was unable to attend was Commissioner Johnson. But I just wanted to give an update. We are looking at sending 2 public health staff, like Bob said, and 2 school staff. So 1 staff member from Sauk Rapids Rice Public Schools and 1 from Foley Public Schools to really learn about the opportunities that we can partake in for working on policy changes, education in the school system related to tobacco prevention and control. This conference would take place June 28th through the 30th, with some additional days in there just for attendee travel. And then the total cost per person would be about $2,500. So we're looking at an estimated budget of $7,500 to $10,000, which is already budgeted in our SHIP grant and was already approved by MDH.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mariah? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, is the school going to help with this cost or not? Or is SHIP going to take care of everything?
So I can speak to that. SHIP would fund the travel costs, anything associated with that, and then SHIP does require a 10% match, so the school would fund that 10% match, which would be staff time for the school staff to attend the training.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions for Mariah or Bob?
I'll move approval of the tobacco trip SHIP 10% match to send 2 staff members and 2 school district members, 1 from Foley, 1 from Sauk Rapids, to this training.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the SHIP grant for this training. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Bob. And your approval of the PH documentation system for public health.
It's a lot easier when you're virtual and your camera's off to talk. All right, the next item is that we have had lots of discussion on this, and we are going to be transitioning from Nightingale Notes to PH Docs in our public health unit. And the idea behind that is it just flows more fluently, and it also allows us to work with our 3 other partners in this community, the other counties, better. So that's the reason why. And the funding is First Steps Initiative and our local public health grant. So we don't expect, and if there is anything that's left over from that point, we have COVID funds left over as well. So we expect to be fully reimbursed, and we're looking at early next year implementing this. So with your approval, we will go ahead and proceed.
All right,
I move for approval, Mr. Chair.
a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any other discussion in regards to the update to the documentation system for public health? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
All I have.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Members,
you.
anything else on human services? All right, we'll adjourn and turn it back over to the chair for our regular
Thank
meeting.
Okay, thank you. We'll reconvene our regular board meeting. Next up, Jerry Machi, District Manager of Benton Soil Water Conservative District.
Good morning.
Morning,
Morning,
Jerry.
Jerry.
First off, I gotta say, the last 2 years I've had to do my report right after the sheriff's department. If you remember, we talked about.
Yeah.
I was giving Beth a hard time that she needs to collaborate with me a little bit better. So I'm not sure following up the dispatch thing is better or not, but yeah, it's nice to see you all this morning. Annual report. You should have a copy of it. Hopefully, you've had some time to go through it and look through the report. I'll breeze through a few pages here. There's always a lot more in the report than I can possibly go through in 10 or 15 minutes, but I'm gonna hit the highlights. I'll start with actually page 3, staff. A lot of changes in 2021 at the staff level, so you've got page 3, picture of our staff and some changes there. The new staff would be Jessica, Kendra, and Tiffany, and they're on the following page, page 4. So I think you guys probably have met the new staff, but in case you haven't, Kendra and Jessica both started last April, April 12th last year, so they're coming up on a year. Kendra's our water plant technician, so you're probably most familiar with her working on one watershed, one plan, and water monitoring, those activities. And Jessica started, she's doing, excuse me, a lot of the federal cost share programs. She's doing a lot with soil health and irrigation work. And another program, the Agricultural Water Quality Certification Program. And then Tiffany started with the Soil Water District in October, so she's the newest of the three. And Tiffany's also another district technician. She's been spending a lot of time. We had another big, I'll use the acronym even though I try not to, EQIP, Environmental Quality Incentives Program, a big federal cost share program. She's been doing a lot of work with that program in 2021. And one of the reasons for that is if you go back to page 3 on the bottom there, you'll see a picture of the NRCS staff. And the one on the right there, Pat Gailing, announced his retirement from NRCS in the middle of last year. I think it was June. And so he finished up his career with NRCS. He spent about 30 years in Benton County. We miss him a lot. There was pretty big hole in the district during the transition, especially as we were going through that change. So I did actually bring a Pat's replacement, and just to shave a couple of minutes off the presentation, I'll maybe introduce you to Josh a little bit further down the line here. But yeah, Pat Gailing was in Benton County for just under 30 years, so we definitely appreciate all the work that he's done in Benton County. Let's move on to page 5. You know, normally I talk a lot about projects and programs, but we're gonna spend a little bit of time talking about staff and stuff this year. Chuck Rowell, he's on the right side on the picture on the bottom. Chuck Rowell's our supervisor. He lives just off of West Lake Road by Little Rock Lake. And the center section there at the top, at the state level, Benton SWCD Supervisor Chuck Rowell serves as the vice president on our state association board. So this is actually Chuck's second year on the state association board, and sort of one of the big things he did in 2021 is he chaired the legislative committee. And it's a huge legislative year for us. So Chuck was really busy working with the legislative committee and our state association, working directly with legislators last year to work on a couple things. And our primary activity, if you will, this latest legislative session, but actually the work started last year in 2021, is what's called our SWCD aid package. We've spent several biennium working with the legislature to try to get state funding out of the general fund for soil and water districts. As a state, we feel soil and water district funding is a sort of a shared responsibility of county government and state government. And we've been trying to get it out of the general fund because we, every 2 years, it gets zeroed out right now to the clean water fund. So I mentioned that. Chuck has done a lot of work. If you know any legislators and run into them, we've got a bill right now going through the House and Senate. It's House File 3719 and Senate File 3913. Deal with SWCD funding, and Chuck has spent a lot of time on that. So, and actually, happy to say one of our senators, Senator Eric Putnam, signed on to the Senate bill. So, if you see Senator Putnam, please thank him for that. So Chuck was really busy working for you, and that'll be a good bill for Benton County. We'll see probably about a $70,000, roughly $70,000 increase in funding if that goes through, and that's huge, huge to have that reliable funding. Any questions on sort of the staff? All right, let's get to some funner stuff. Let's I want to just hit page 8 just a little bit because it's I think important to Benton County, the financial summary there, and I talk about this kind of every year. But our finances, there's a bar chart there, shows you the how we pay for operational expenses at the Soil and Water District. Federal funding was up in 2021. The state funding was down a little bit. Benton County's contribution. Thank you again. 2021 contribution was $239,500 in 2021. And you can see from a financial perspective, we roll that over into a lot of project funding in Benton County, and that's the chart on the bottom. And the biggest piece there is federal funding. And the details would be on the next page. So if you flip over to page 9. 1.67 million spent on conservation projects in Benton County. 1.67. I mean, I look at that number and you kind of get used to eclipsing that $1 million mark every year. And 1.67, that's, for me, it's a pretty impressive number. Most of it, as you can see, comes from federal cost share programs, some from state, and then the landowner contribution. Landowners spending their money in Benton County instead of other places. So that number at the bottom, we some different published reports. If you sort of generalize some of the reports that are out there, you can assume about 50% is kind of a conservative figure, but about 50% of the funding is probably recirculated back into the county. In our situation, a lot of that goes to contractors, earthwork contractors. A lot of materials are purchased locally in Benton County, lumber, steel for some of the roof structures that go up. So if you assume about 50% of that gets recirculated, it comes up to $837,000 in economic activity in Benton County. Excuse me. That really probably is a little bit low. A lot of the projects, the farmers will do other work on their farm as long as the contractor's out there. This is just accounting for the conservation work that we're directly involved with. So local fund recirculated is probably close to $1 million. So we know that's important for Benton County, so I just wanted to point that out. Let's talk about Little Rock Lake, page 70. You get some nice charts there. Just wanted to go through them real quickly. There's two sites, site 212 and 204. Don't get too hung up on those sites. One of them's in the middle of the lake. One of them's a little bit lower in the lake. But that top chart there is looking at water quality data from 2012 through last year, 2021. The first one is water clarity, so that's the algae in the water that makes it green. And 2012 is the year the total maximum daily load project was done, and we really amped up work in Morrison and Benton counties, so you can see water clarity is improving. That's really important. And the bottom charts there is nutrients. That happens to be phosphorus. Phosphorus is important because that's usually the nutrient that limits algae growth, and that's on the decline too. So the work of our community matters. It's making a big difference. We hear all the time, was the drawdown successful? So if you flip the page over to page 21, that photo there was taken last August. And when you first look at it, it's not the clearest lake in Minnesota, certainly. But what's notable on that photo is in the foreground there, that's plants that you can see. And you talk to the locals, it's been years and years, decades since you could see plants in Little Rock Lake in August. So I think that speaks for itself as to the success of all the conservation efforts over last 10 to 15 years, and then the drawdown as well. Okay.
So, Jerry, I mean, we've seen, quite a bit improvement of the lake. When do you really see another 3 years to where you'll get all your results of how much it has improved?
Yeah, that's a good question. You're talking specifically to the drawdown.
Drawdown.
Yeah.
Because I know there was a time frame of 0 to 3 years, 0 to
Yep.
5 years.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of experience with drawdowns, but I might suggest another year or two on that lake before Mother Nature sort of figures out what it's gonna do with the cleaner water. The algae community changes to where it's gonna be, and the plants in the lake sort of settle in. A lot of the plants, they root down the first year, they grow more the second year, they need to colonize and spread out. So, I think I would predict probably this year we're gonna be probably close to what it's gonna look like from that drawdown. And I would say 2023 probably, I would say for sure. I'll qualify that a little bit. It's really gonna depend on the weather.
Right.
I mean, last year was not a good year. It was a drought year. The water was warm. It's a year you'd expect a lot of algae. And that's not as good for the light to get through and for the plants to grow, so, yeah. Couple years.
Jerry, I think it was a huge improvement over the last major drought we had.
Yeah, if you look at
Last major drought, it was a disaster,
Yeah.
that lake was a disaster compared
Yeah.
to this time around.
page 22 there, the picture, that was,
seven.
thanks for pointing that out, Commissioner Pop. That's the reason why we flew the drone in August of 2021. Those pictures are taken, don't quote me, I think they're about 2 weeks apart. We didn't get the exact date, but we flew the drone in 2021, about the same time as 2007. 2007 was a really bad year when people were leaving the lake and, because they were getting nauseous from the smells and some of the stuff going on in 2007. And so 2021 happened to be another drought year. And I agree with you, Commissioner Pop, there's major differences. 2007, we had the floating algae. If you look really closely on the very left-hand side, you can see it collecting on the left shoreline. In 2021, there's very, very little floating algae. It's all in the water column, so it's a different type of algae.
And it'd be interesting to know how many projects were done between 2007 and 2021 that were within that watershed.
Yeah, I wouldn't have that exact number, but I can.
There was a huge amount.
There was a huge amount, there's 200 and some projects. I can get you that information. It's been in our previous reports. We don't have access, or we can't report all the federal projects that were done. And I'd also point out that a lot of work gets done in the watershed by the landowners that we're not involved with. Nutrient management has changed a lot over the years, how people spread manure. I think some of the outreach and education, you can't really put your finger on, how some of that stuff improves water quality and it's a project. Just because our office wasn't involved, you know, I think it's really a project too, so. And there's a lot of work that's happened up in that area.
Just one testimony that came forward just recently was that somebody that had a cabin on the lake and works at Medtronics, I believe, in the cities, is now got a permit to build their residency to be a permanent resident. And she told me that she probably, if the lake had continued in that route, they probably wouldn't be there. They would probably look somewhere else. So, you know, it's driving property values up and everything else that.
Yeah, that's something else we really can't measure. I think, I
measure
feel
the
like the
success.
property values, if you compare what they would be, would have been, you know, if the work hadn't been done, especially, you know, a year like 2021. I think the property values probably have increased, or at least held steady, comparatively, you know, speaking, from all the work that's been done in that watershed. Because 2007, 2008, those were some pretty rough years around that lake. Property sales were tough around that lake, so. So I do want to spend a little bit on some program stuff, and I just flip to page 30. And actually, we want to spend a little bit of time on the federal cost share programs, as this is where I'll bring Josh up. And I really just, I want you to introduce Josh to you and have him talk a little bit about a couple of federal cost share programs, because they do drive a lot of our activity. So, Josh, if you want to come up here.
Brought me with mostly just to make sure he doesn't talk all day.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, we're on limited time anyway.
Right, so Pat left in December and I started officially, end of February, or end of January, beginning of February. So tried to pick up a lot of workload in a short amount of time. A lot of work done with EQIP, or the Environmental Quality Incentive Program. And, you know, 2022 isn't looking quite as productive as 21. I think we're on the books for about $750,000 that we're gonna hopefully spend and get obligated here in the next month or so for projects, you know, starting as soon as the ground thaws out and dries up. So EQIP is kind of our go-to for programs with covering just about any land use or activity, solving the resource concern, whether it's erosion or nutrient management, anything, you know, that's definitely can be improved on. Well, I guess I gotta check and see what Jerry's got in his. I'm still getting familiar with all the projects, so, you know, the pit that he's got on the next page talks about the savings and having the storage. You know, the big thing is storage and getting guys, you know, 12 months of storage so that manure isn't getting spread on frozen ground or spread on, you know, on top of the snow. You know, it doesn't look good that manure doesn't end up where it needs to be, and we got big problems like Little Rock Lake 10 years ago. So the whole goal is there's a lot of work being done. There's a lot of money being spent, but, you know, Pat was here for 30 years. I'm not gonna say he fixed every farm in the county, so there's still some work to be done. Pat did a lot of work. He did a lot of good work, and yeah, he's got big shoes to fill. So the goal is to keep projects going, keep guys coming through the door. It's all voluntary, so I mean, it's, you know, they come to us for help, and the goal is that we can make these programs fit and spend the money that's available. So I think we had proposals, or we had applications for almost $5 million worth of projects to do, and we're hoping to fund, you know, $750,000. So the interest is there. It's just the money. We got to compete against Morrison County, Stearns County, you know, everybody in the neighborhood. So it's tough competition in that regard. So we also got CRP. That's kind of ongoing, and, you know, it's tough competing with $8 corn and $15 soybeans. But, you know, there's still interest. There's still guys looking, and, you know, the goal of that program is to get the ground that needs to be in CRP. We don't, you know, we don't need to take prime farmland out. The goal is to target the areas along the ditches or the erosion problems and the areas that really would benefit from CRP. So there's my spiel on federal programs. Eventually I'll get more comfortable with the projects and the farms around the county, so anxious to get out and see what's going on.
Well, welcome to Benton County.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. I'll try to keep Jerry 5 more minutes. And
Good
then
luck with
drag
that.
him out of here.
No. 30 seconds will work.
There you go.
And Josh comes to us from Cambridge.
Yeah, I guess I didn't give much back. I was in Isani County for the last 14 years, so it's.
And I think I heard a Benton County resident.
Yes, down in Glen Dorado Township.
Yeah.
Great.
I didn't wanna share too much. Yeah, I live, just north of Glen Dorado, so down in that neighborhood.
Great.
Thanks for coming to Benton County.
All right, any questions? There's a lot in the report, and I'll be seeing you at lunch today too, so we can cover things there too. But
down?
pardon me?
Write our questions down?
Go for it.
Just one quick comment, Mr. Chair. This is so indicative of, roughly 85 plus or minus % of our counties in some form of ag. So obviously, this is a huge benefit to us, and appreciate all your work. I know it's been a good working relationship, and again, welcome on board to Benton County. It's gonna be good going forward, so thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very
Thanks for
much.
those comments.
One comment, and maybe we can have a little discussion over lunch, is what recently happened in the Little Rock watershed. Boy, that is, I've had nothing but negative.
Little Rock Creek,
Little Rock
irrigation
Creek,
stuff?
yeah. Nothing but negative comments on what the
Be a good
DNR
conversation to have at lunch, I agree.
DNR did there.
Yeah, we can, I've been working on a few things and, trying to get my arms around a few things here, and we can have that discussion at lunch.
Okay.
Great.
Good discussion to have.
Yeah.
Okay.
right,
Anything
thank
else,
you again.
Jerry? Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? We'll see you later.
All right.
Next, Chris. MnDOT Detour Agreement.
All right. Very good. I think everybody's kind of aware of the project this summer, starting kind of just right outside our door here on Highway 23, between here and Malacca. Reconstruction. So they've let and awarded a contract, and I think they're wanting to start as soon as spring load restrictions come off the roads. Well, for that project, they'll be essentially closing down Highway 23 to through traffic. And so basically, MnDOT would like to use our County Road 4, our CASA 4, as official trunk highway detour between Foley and Malacca, or Mille Lacs County line, I should say. And then it goes on Mille Lacs County roads.
12.
So, in my time here as county engineer, this is the first time that I've been involved in an actual trunk highway being detoured. There's been trunk highway projects adjacent to our roads, and they've established haul roads and those kind of things on it. A lot of times, local traffic will figure out their own ways to get around, and we'll see increased traffic on the roads. But MnDOT is actually declaring County State Aid Highway 4 as an official trunk highway detour during that time. So we have an agreement before us that they would like to enter into with the county. I want to point out some things. The agreement here is on the screen. A big thing is they do recognize that having trunk highway detour, that increases traffic volumes on our roads. So we are sustaining some damage due to that increase in volume. And so they've calculated an amount that they will compensate Benton County for the use of our county road during the life of the project. And that's that number here, $78,945.30 is what they would pay us per this agreement. So they established a method. It's this gas tax method that they use. I reached out to some of my counterparts in other counties because the agreement does say that we could use a different method, an equivalent overlay method, but that requires us to hire a consultant to do those calculations and basically analyze the pavement. My counterpart said that when they have done that, it hasn't really paid off anyways. So, because then you have those consultant fees and things like that, and you get into kind of an argument. So I guess that's my recommendation as the county engineer is take, I guess, what they're giving us for that. The agreement does get into some detour maintenance. While it's a detour, if there's some damage that's sustained specific because of the detour, they are agreeing to do that. For example, bituminous patching, not more than or less than 100 feet in length, I should say, or not more than 100 feet in length. They're willing to do that as part of this agreement. If we have like a blowout on one of our roads or something, I don't foresee that happening because CASA 4, we just completed a full depth reclamation on that road between County Road 6 and the county line. So it's a brand new road. I don't anticipate those kind of things happening. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Chris, one quick question. Sheriff's Department been notified of this project and all the traffic that's gonna be on South 4?
I have not specifically noted
The
it.
answer is yes. So MnDOT has been having project meetings for the last year and a half, 2 years. And and make sure I invited court administration and sheriff's office, and they've participated in some, so they're well aware of how traffic patterns are gonna change for not only responding out to the community, but also traffic patterns into that facility. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
They're well aware of what's gonna happen and when. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Good question.
Mr. Chair, so on this, County Road 4, when they go back, is there any kind of turn lanes or anything like that that's gonna be added or?
No, we do have turn lanes already at County Road 6. I think it's 7 and 9 at our major intersections. Our project, there was before and we reestablished those. So
Okay.
I don't anticipate any additional construction on our roads per this agreement.
You know, we were hearing at the Highway 23 deal that Stearns County has 3 roads that they're gonna use for the detours of that. And they went out and tried to buy temporary easements and turn it back, and they were unsuccessful, so they purchased permanent easements, and now they will upgrade those county roads to that standard.
Oh, okay. In Stearns County, but not part of this project though.
No, not part of this, but with the, it's on the Highway 23, the North Loop or whatever they're doing there.
Sure.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Pop, Chris is correct in 6, 7, and 9. County 66, the first major crossing east of town, does not have turn lanes.
Okay.
So, and with that stretch of road, it's gonna be interesting. I know they're trying to reroute truck traffic, I believe, down to Highway 95.
Correct. That's the goal, is to try to catch truck traffic there, not bring them through town.
You've got a
Yeah.
13-mile straight
Stretch,
stretch
yep.
from 169 into Foley
Yep.
with no stop signs. So anyways, it's gonna be a major amount of traffic, but, all right. Mr. Chair, with that, I'll move approval of MnDOT Agreement 1049444 and authorize the deposit of proceeds in the Road and Bridge Fund and approve the attached resolution that was presented.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Monty, you wanna?
Let me suggest that we take the next 2 items quite quickly and then go to your closed sessions.
Yep.
Since Scott is here with us, Scott Anderson. So, this next item, Mr. Chair, just a bit of housekeeping. Back when the county agreed to purchase the Eisenschenk pit, there was a consensus to use a loan from our solid waste fund to finance that purchase. With the understanding at some point later, we would formalize a loan arrangement whereby the solid waste fund would be repaid. We've used this financing technique a couple of times now. It was used a couple of times mostly in the sheriff's office for the camera or door control system. And then subsequently, I believe it was a jail records management system, we used this technique. So there's idle cash sitting in the solid waste fund and it's repaid without interest. So it's a nice way of saving some interest costs for the county and the taxpayers. So we now have all the final costs associated with the Eisenschenk purchase. It's $1,203,727. This resolution contemplates it being repaid over a period of 20 years. Annual payments over a period of 20 years. I think that's really it. Hopefully it's pretty straightforward, Mr. Chair.
It is to me.
Mr. Chair, one quick question. What's our current balance in solid waste, that fund? Over 3 million?
Yes.
3.1 or something?
Yeah, it's in that 3 million range. Yep, yeah, so.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution establishing a loan for $1,203,727 from the solid waste fund to the road and bridge fund for the purchase of the Eisenschenk property.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? If not, I'll call a question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, it's me. Consider resolution to declare April 26 County Government Appreciation Day. The National Association of Counties encourages counties to recognize April as a National County Government Month. Part of the recognition can involve declaring April 26th as County Government Appreciation Day to acknowledge the work of county employees and their contributions to our community. What would you like to do with this?
Mr. Chair, I so move that we make April 26th as County Government Day. I think most counties across the state are going to do this.
Yep, they
I
will
would
be. And we got
I'll second that.
okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further questions on this item? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. Thank you. At this time, we're gonna go into closed session. Correct me, Monty?
Sure, yeah, Mr. Chair, what I would suggest we do is we do both closed sessions, just one
Yep,
after the other.
right.
Because we'll have the door shut and that sort of thing, but
Yep.
I would suggest, again, we'll make sure we commit to the record.
Yep.
The first closed session is gonna be under 13D.05 subdivision 3B, as permitted by the
Attorney-client privilege.
And then we'll move from that one to the second one, 13D.05, to evaluate the performance of individuals subject to county boards.
Okay.
Move to go into closed session.
Monty, may I make a statement? And the motion, when it hits the record, we'll need to state that the purpose of the closed session is to discuss litigation. Which can be considered pending under the law regarding the authorization this board made on March 1 to initiate litigation against the auditor treasurer to determine her residency. And we'll discuss facts and strategy and other.
Okay, and we need to,
That's your motion, is second, and
Okay.
I'll put that in the record.
I'll amend my motion to include what our attorney Scott Anderson presented.
I remember when Terry was here.
and we got, I'll second that. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're going into closed session now. Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob.
Good to see you, Jacob.
Yeah.
How are you?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Scott Anderson, we talked
Yep,
about
we've
the
talked.
Yep. Okay.
I've seen you at some seminars.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for making the drive.
You know what?
Just give me 1 minute.
Thank you.